She mocked his toy weapons. The human left her armor in pieces. The parade ground on Valkyrian Station shimmered under a dome of pale sunlight and drifting frost. Hundreds of alien officers watched from tiered metal stands, their uniforms a garden of razored epaulets and gleaming sigils. Center ring stood Commander Threxia of the Aegir Guard, 6.5 feet of cobalt skin and lattice black exo-armor that bulged at the shoulders like storm clouds. She flexed her gauntlet and the suit responded with a purr, plates settling into place like a predator redressing its claws. Across from her, in a scuffed jacket and dusted boots, stood Evan Hale, human. He carried no rifle on his shoulder nor blade at his hip, only a canvas duffel that sagged with a cluttered weight of things. Oils, drinks, a slingshot that looked stolen from a child's treehouse fort. The corners of Threxia's mouth curled. Your species calls these weapons. Her laughter had an edge. I expected at least one respectable cannon. Evan set the duffel down and smiled like a man about to fix a sink. I brought what I need. A herald's gong rang, thin as a sheet of ice. The rules flashed over the ring. Non-lethal engagement. Objective: disable the opponent's suit. Threxia lifted her chin toward the stands. Witness the human's toys, she said, and the crowd hissed approval. Evan's fingers moved without hurry. A dragonfly-thin drone leapt from his palm and skimmed the air. A quicksilver flicker. Threxia's visor tracked it. A shoulder plate burped open and a gout of electric hail obliterated the drone with contemptuous ease. The puff of shrapnel drifted like glitter. The stands roared. Cute, she said. Just checking your reflexes. Evan pulled a ceramic disc the size of a biscuit from his bag and flicked it underhand. It thudded harmlessly at Threxia's feet, split along a seam, and spilled a foam that crawled with alarming enthusiasm. She stepped back and the foam lunged like bread dough, swallowing her ankle. Her thruster vent flared. The foam charred black and went glassy. She crushed the lump with a kick. Glue, Threxia snorted. Kitchen tricks. Evan's next toy was a slingshot. He planted his feet, pulled a line until the band trembled, and let a steel pebble ping across her chest plate. A comic little sound, ting. That drew laughter like chimes from the rows. Threxia spread her arms in a mock embrace. More little maker. Bring your marbles. He did. Pebbles zipped, stitched a dotted line along her collar seam. Tap tap tap. An invisible pattern until she realized each bounce smudged a dust that flickered dull blue. She glanced to her status. Microconductive chaff. Harmless. She buelled forward, and the ground shuddered beneath her armored stride. Evan backed away, unslinging a rod and driving its spike into the deck. He thumbed a dial. Somewhere underfoot, a pulse rippled. Threxia felt it through greaves and spine. A tum in her bones, another tum, each a belly-deep drum. Her suit's shields hiccuped, fractional, rephasing to damp the intrusive rhythm. She lifted a wrist and fired a glancing plasma spear. It tore a furrow at Evan's feet, melted his rod to a drooping reed. He bounced back on the balls of his feet, eyes bright. Resonance mapping, he said cheerfully, yanking the ruined spike free. Your shielding prefers odd harmonics. She lunged. The ground blurred. Evan rolled beneath a sweeping gauntlet, flung a woolen-looking pouch at a knee actuator. The pouch popped, vomiting a cloud of crystalline powder and cold breath. Frost coiled along the actuator track. Her suit compensated, heat exchanging with a whining note. She felt, not pain but drag, the tiniest grit between teeth. Tricks, she said. She tore a bench-sized slab of ballast from the deck and hurled it. Evan dove. The slab smashed behind him and burst into shrapnel. He came up with two things that looked like yo-yos tethered by bright filament. He whirled a yo-yo. The filaments sang, a hummingbird's wire. He feinted left, then snapped the line across her elbow joint. The monofilament bit not cutting. Its coating prevented that, but wedging deep in the narrow channels. Yank. Her elbow stuck. He danced away and flicked the second yo-yo, lacing her opposite wrist in the same breath. She powered through, servos howling, cables straining, but the humming filaments kept their song, adding a subnote to the drone of her suit. "Enough," she growled, dropping her stance. A dorsal vent irised. She charged her shock field. Blue daylight became a snarl around her. The filament should have vaporized. They didn't. The powder he'd dusted her with sparked and clung, a conductive path that redirected the bite of her own field down and out, into the deck plates, into the little anchor nails Evan had driven at the engagement start and she'd not bothered to notice. The field bled harmless. Phyrexia surged. Evan vaulted backward over his duffel, dragged something out that looked like a carpenter's clamp married to a starfish. He slapped it on her chest. Magnetic pads kissed armor. The clamp's arms splayed and took hold. She grabbed for it, but he'd already scuttled sideways, tossing 3 more starfish that skittered across her torso and thighs. Each one chattered in a vicious little staccato, biters taking measurements, nibbling at frequencies. Her HUD flickered. A subsystem warnings list began to climb the edge of her visor like ivy. "What are they doing?" she demanded. "Listening," he said, breath clouding. "Your memory metal plates relax at precise tones. You sing to them to make the suit easy to don and doff, right? Open-close rituals." Her jaw tightened. The song of the guard was sacred. "You cannot know our." He lifted a bow. Not a weapon. A musician's bow, simple wood and taut hair. He plucked it once, and the sound crawled over the parade ground, thin and needy, a note that made Phryxia's teeth itch. The starfish clamps answered at micro-pitch. She felt it, a softening around her shoulders, a loosening at her hips. Her armor's latches, listening. She roared and charged to drown the noise in motion. Evan met motion with insultingly small gestures. A tossed puck that burst Cold-2 into her heat exchanger ports. A slap of expanding foam into a thigh vent. A snap of his slingshot that cracked a ceramic ball on her visor, showering her with opaque gel that smeared and hardened like bruised milk. She scraped it away with a growl, but while she scraped, he moved, always just ahead of her shadow, fingers playing his bow as if coaxing a reluctant door. The clamps sang back. Latches sighed. A shoulder plate dropped with a startled clank. Another followed like autumn. Her gauntlet spat sparks. The shock field guttered. The stands fell silent. Armor fell in pieces around her boots, each plate landing with the tragic dignity of a banner lowered. He stopped. In the hush, his last note hung, then dimmed. Phyrexia stood breathing hard in the undersuit's flexible weave, muscles alive beneath fabric, unhurt but stripped of her reputation's shell. Evan lowered the bow and, after a beat, the slingshot. "I told you," he said softly. "I brought what I need." Phyrexia looked down at the ring of plates at her feet, then at the human whose toys had been songs, strings, powders, and patience. She felt the burn in her chest that had nothing to do with exertion. Respect, reluctant and absolute. She sank to one knee, not in submission, but in acknowledgement of craft. "Your toys," she said, and the word held no mockery now, "are instruments." "Tools," he corrected, almost shy. "In the right hands." The herald's gong sounded again, this time like a warm bell in winter. The stands did not hiss. They rose, uncertain and then convinced, to their feet. Threxia unclipped the crest from her fallen pauldron and offered it across her open palms. "Teach me the song of hinges," she said, "and I will teach you the storms we wear." Evan took the crest, then offered his hand, empty, honest. She clasped it in her de-armored fingers, and together they stood amid the quiet wreck of what she had believed invincible. On Valkyrian Station, the day's lesson settled like frost. That power is not always louder than the hand that knows where to press, and that sometimes the smallest toys, sung true, can unmake a fortress and make instead a bridge.